On November 21st, 2020, Danny Swift Garcia will step back into the ring to take on the Truth Errol Spence Jr. for Spence's IBF and WBC welterweight titles. Many believe that this fight has become more of a 50-50 matchup due to the circumstances surrounding Spence's prior accident and the pandemic that surrounds us. Danny carries power in both hands, as he stated in many prior fights, has the potential to shock Errol with his power, as we have seen Spence take plenty shots in championship fights with Kell Brook and Sean Porter. On the contrary, Errol Spence carries his own power, and with his non-cease aggression and beautiful precision boxing ability like the one he displayed with Mikey Garcia, Spence is by far the most dangerous fighter Danny will face. Danny showed vulnerability in prior bouts. The most notable of his career was with Mauricio Herrera, where most ringside observers say Danny had lost that fight. But the North Philly fighter has become one of the elite stars of the division, only falling short to two other elite fighters of the division, Keith Thurman and Sean Porter. Errol Spence never ceased to become the top guy in the division, and he most surely accomplished his goal and is now reigning as head honcho at the 147-pound division. So we dive into this Fox PPV pay-per-view event, Danny Garcia versus Errol Spence. Welcome, I am your host, Nice, and this is the Fight Room. We're talking Errol Spence versus Danny Garcia for November 21st, live on Fox pay-per-view. And this is my breakdown on this highly anticipated matchup for the welterweight division. Now, it is a good fight. Of course, we all know that Errol Spence is the top dog in that division by far as we speak. Now, a lot of people say, Terence Crawford is highly up there. But you know what? Terence Crawford has not proven anything in the welterweight division. And not for nothing, I had him number one probably like a year and a half, 2 years ago, until I put up Canelo Alvarez as pound for pound. Now, with all that being said, I want to talk about Danny and, of course, Errol Spence. And I believe that Errol Spence, like I said, is number one in the welterweight division as we speak. Now, we all know that Pacquiao has the WBA title, and Errol Spence has the WBC and WBA title, and is going to put it on the line for November 21st against Danny Garcia. Now, dangerous fight for either guy. Now, speaking of Errol Spence's situation, that we all know that the prior accident that he had and the pandemic, he's vulnerable to Danny Garcia. Why I say that? Danny is a hard puncher. He's a flat-footed puncher. Flat-footed, we all know that, but Danny packs power in both hands. It could be a dangerous situation for Errol Spence. But Errol, has a great precision boxing skills, and with his lateral movement and using the ring and using his high Q, could be a highly great matchup. People are saying that Errol Spence is too big and too strong for Danny, but I disagree with that. Because Danny is a strong fighter and a hard puncher. And Danny has proven it time and time again. Listen, his last fight, was with Ivan Redkach. And it went 12 rounds, it is what it is. But before that, he fought Adrian Granados, and nobody ever got to stop Adrian Granados. That's his first stoppage of his career. Speaking of Granados, got stopped. So, Danny has done great things in the welterweight division. Now, we all know that, back in the day, they called him a cherry picker or whatnot. But Danny is a focused fighter now. I gotta say, man, he's gotten better as far as what he wants to do in the division. He said that he fell back for a little bit and wanted to just, live out his life and with the money that he made and throughout the two fights with Porter and Keith Thurman. But he's back, focused, and ready for the welterweight division, like he said. So, I give him that credit that he's want to get focused and back into the fight. Now, Errol Spence, we all know the situation that happened, and he even stated in Twitter, about a month and a half ago or so, that he was slacking in the gym. Now, we all know that Errol Spence is a dog in the gym. his main sparring partner, we all know, is Jermel Charlo. So, iron sharpens iron, and he's just been slacking, he said, but he's gotten back in, and he said that he's going to be ready and prepared, and he's going to show the world what he's made of. So, a highly anticipated matchup. I like the fight, and a lot of people disagree with that. I've heard people who was like, that fight is this and that. But if we really look at the situation, man, it's a great fight for the welterweight division. Danny is not a slouch. Danny is definitely still an elite fighter in the welterweight division. His fight against Porter, not for nothing, he could have done more in that matchup. I believe that he was just being too patient in that fight with Porter, and that's why he lost the fight. If he would have been more aggressive, and using his jab, which he hardly uses, and if Danny would use more of his jab to set up punches, he would do even greater. But the matchup with him and Keith Thurman, man, it was a better fight for Danny Garcia, I believe. And Danny, not for nothing, in the last 3 or 4 rounds was doing pretty well. And Keith Thurman was the one, running. He was running a little bit. He kind of reminded me of Oscar De La Hoya with Tito Trinidad, not for nothing. So, he was scared of Danny's power. In the last 3 rounds, he was running. That means he felt Danny's power throughout that fight. True or not? Has to be. So with this matchup, it is definitely dangerous, to me, more dangerous for Errol Spence, because we all know the situation. Now, people say that he can be alright, that shouldn't affect him, but we don't know. Because, he had teeth missing, and, he got reconstructive surgery in his face and whatnot. And not only that, he had a laceration right here. So who knows if Danny, with his power, could potentially even cut Errol Spence, because he does have laceration here. So with that being said, I believe that this is going to be a great fight, and it's going to be a lot of unexpected things in this matchup. Danny has a good chin. Danny can take a punch, honestly. And we all seen Danny take hits, but take it quite well. And also Errol Spence has taken furious punches and exchanges with Kell Brook, Porter, and so forth. So it's going to be a highly anticipated matchup. I can't wait for it. And to me, it's a 50-50 matchup. Now, we all know that the last fight that, of course, it was Sean Porter that he fought. It was a good fight. I think, honestly, man, that fight to me, Porter could have pulled that off, man. If you really see that fight again, I think Porter did enough, man, to even win that fight. They could have gave it to Porter. Honestly, watch that fight again, they could have gave it to Porter. Not taking it away from Errol. Errol did an excellent job in that fight. But with that being said, man, Porter stood his ground and did what he did, and, he looked at quite well against Errol Spence. So with that being said, we all know that Porter and Danny, are 2 different fighters. But what I can say is that I believe that Danny packs hella power, and I believe he hits a little bit more harder. Well, not a little bit. I think a little bit more harder than Porter does. And he packs power in both of these. And I know he's a focused fighter right now, and it's going to be a great fight. And Danny, let me pull something here. His fight, let me see. He only fought twice in 2020, He fought once in 2019, which is not good. Wasn't good, and it was with Adrian Granados. And then in 2018, he fought twice with Brandon Rios and Sean Porter. So, slacky a little bit in the ring. Hopefully he doesn't have any ring rust coming into this fight. I don't believe he will, because I think he's gotten very focused back in the ring due to, in the pandemic. He's been getting focused, and, you know what I mean, right? He's been doing his thing. But on the other hand, we know that Errol has it. He said he's been slacking. So Errol has slacked a little bit in the gym. Had that prior accident. Thank the Lord that he's good. And, the pandemic, and he's been slacking on that. So to me, honestly, man, I think the guy with the the more advantage in this fight, to be honest with you, I think is Danny Garcia. Now, people might not believe that and be like, nah, you know, because they're overlooking Danny. But I believe that Danny has the tools, the focusedness that he's been focused for the last couple of months, and he's gonna bring that in, and it's gonna show in that matchup. So, you know, Errol Spence, man, you know, 26 wins, no losses, 21 by knockout. Danny, of course, is 36, I believe. 36 wins. Excuse me, let me pull that up again. 36 wins, only 2 defeats, you know, with Porter and Thurman, elite fighters. 21 by knockout. You know, a great matchup for the sport, and definitely for the welterweight division. I can't wait. I believe it's still a 50-50 matchup, and it's going to be exciting for the welterweight division. Now, on the other hand, I want to talk about Terence Crawford real quick, because Terence, you know, it's just sad, to be honest, man. You know, I am still a fan of Terence Crawford, but you know, it's just too much things going on in his plate as far as not picking a fight, and you know, being that he is with Bob Arum. Bob Arum is making it too difficult for him to fight with the elite fighters of the welterweight division, and I believe, man, that it's going to falter and mess up his career, man, and even his Hall of Fame. You know, it's not good, and we all want to see Terence Crawford fight Errol Spence. That's the most fight that we all want to see. But now that this fight is going to happen with Danny, you know, it could be dangerous for Spence, like I said, or Danny. But let's just say Danny does win the fight. Let's just say Danny wins that fight, right? What would the crowd and the sports fans in boxing would say when it comes to Errol Spence fighting Crawford? Would we want to see that more if he loses with Danny? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Maybe, maybe not. Depending on how the fight goes. Not saying Errol will lose, but it's a 50-50 fight. People have to understand that. Now, the thing that Danny has to do in this fight, I believe, he has to be very aggressive. He needs to be very, excuse me, what's the word? Well, busy, excuse me. He has to be very busy in this fight, and he cannot slack a minute. He needs to put a lot of pressure on Errol Spence, because we all know that Errol Spence is the guy that brings the pressure in the fight. So, you know, Errol is the one that pushes the guys to back up. Now, Danny is flat-footed, we all know that. And Danny needs to really be the one to apply the pressure on Errol Spence in order to make it a grooming, vicious fight, and to see if Errol can take that pressure. So with all that being said, to me, it's a 50-50 fight, man, overall, man. And Errol Spence is, you know, he's a great fighter, man. Southpaw, great fighter. And I always said that he was going to take over the division a while ago. And look where he's at. He's taken over so far. So shout outs to Errol Spence. And Danny, you know, with his 2 losses, I know that he is hungry again to take over the welterweight division. So we're going to see what's going to happen in that matchup come November 21st. So you already know, it is your boy Nice. Like, comment, subscribe. Till then, most of all, don't forget, share the fight mode.